Hello everyone, it's Juliet here. Happy Friday. Today we are going to learn how to make these little stud earrings, and you may notice a difference between them here. So this one has some 15-0s around the edge, and this one I used the same 11-0, and it gives a very different look. I think this one kind of almost is like a type of cross, like a Maltese cross or something. And this one, it kind of looks like fine jewelry with the little, little prongs that would hold on your stones or whatever. So it's kind of versatile. You can do whichever version you want to of this. And you could also make this and then hang something else, another bit of earring off the bottom if you wanted to, and I might do that in another video, design the lower half of the earring. Okay, but somebody had requested some more small earrings, so that is what we are going to do today. So I will quickly run through the materials. So most of the beads I'm using came out of the Midnight Meridian box from Potomac Beads. However, you can use your own color choices, obviously. So the main thing is we got these little Chatons in settings. Okay, these are 5mm. They are excuse me, they are SS22. This is what they are. Okay, so you're going to need one of those, and when you get it, make sure that you can put your needle through the bit kind of between the prong and the stone. Like, pick one that isn't so tight that you can't get a needle through there. Okay, I really love the color of these. I think it's really pretty. Kind of gives a little spot of color on the earring. So all right, and then you are going to need a flat back earring finding. Now, this did not come in the treasure box. This is one that I have in stock. This is a 6mm flat back earring. Okay. You are also going to need 4 pearls per earring, 4mm. These did come in the treasure box. 4mm. This is the baby pink color, which is, by the way, it's not really pink. It's just a really nice pearl color, and I use it all the time. It is one of my favorite pearl colors that they have. So don't be put off by the word pink. It's got like a rosy tone to it, but it is not like pink, okay? So that is what this is. Then here we got some 8/0s, and these are Azuki, and I actually really like these because they are very rounded and quite fat. So they're almost like a little drook. They're like a 2.5mm drook almost, or a 2mm drook. I love the shape of it, and I love the colors. So I'm really liking these 8/0s, these Azuki ones, metallic silver. Okay. Then we need some 11/0 seed beads, and I'm using the ones that did come in our treasure box, Montana Blue Gold Luster. I'll put the item number for that in the description of the video if you want to know the Miyuki item number. I'll put that down there. It's such a pretty color. And finally, I added some 15/0s here, which I used for this one. So I'm gonna make another one of these and another one of these because I like them both. But for the video, I'm gonna do the one with the 15/0s. The 15/0s just came out of my stash, so those are not included in the treasure box, but I am going to go ahead and use them for this one. But it's exactly the same. If you just do 11s, you're just going to, instead of using a 15, you're just going to put an 11 there where I put the 15, okay? Thread wise, doesn't really matter what you use. We're in the process of packing up to move our house, so I have left out my nylon thread, and I've put all my other thread away, my fire line and my Dragonthread and all that stuff. So I'm using this. You can use whatever type you want. You're going to want to get about 2 feet probably for this. And I'm using a size 10 beading needle today. Okay. Okay, so once you get threaded up, hold your thread about 4 inches from the end, and you're going to pick up 4 of your 11 O's, and you're going to push that all down to where you're holding your threads so that you leave the correct length of tail. Okay, and you're going to go through them all again from the tail end towards the end, and it should form a circle so that when you pull your thread, okay, you're going to have a little loop like this, and then you're going to sew again through the very first bead on the other end of the circle, and that's going to close it up so that we have a little kind of square like so. Okay, I'm going to bring you in a little closer. Okay, so this is my working thread here. Once you have your little square of beads, you're going to pick up 1 11-0 and you're going to sew into the very next bead on the square. And we're going to do this all the way around our square. So we're kind of putting like a corner on the square. So just go into the very next bead and the next bead, and one more, and into the first bead that we started from. Okay, and try and keep your tail on the back of your work during this, okay? So you should now actually have a square, okay, like this. All right, you're gonna step up into the corner bead. So I'm coming out the side bead right now, and then I'm gonna step up into that first corner bead that we just added. And we're gonna pick up 2 of our 11 seed beads, and we're going to add 2, so 2. You're gonna go into the very next over corner. Like this, okay? Again, you're going to pick up 2. Coming out here, I'm going into the next corner. Okay. Like this. Again, pick up 2 into the next corner. And one more time, you're going to pick up 2, and you're just basically skipping 1 bead here, and that's the next corners of our original diamond. So that is the bead that I want to sew into right there, okay? Okay, so it now looks like this. You're going to sew forward through the 2 kind of corner beads. So see how we have 2 11-0s on each corner at the moment? You're going to sew through those 2 on the corner. And you're just working in a circle here, okay? Okay, so once you're here, you're going to pick up an 11-0, sorry, an 8-0, an 8-0, and you're going to sew through the next 2 corner beads. Like this. Again, you're going to pick up an 8-0 and go into the next 2 corner beads. Okay. Again, pick up an 8-0, go into the next 2 corner beads. And I do want to say here there you may see a bit of thread showing, and that is okay. If there is, like, you know, a bit of thread here, don't worry about it, okay? And one more time, 180, and into the 2 beads here. Okay, so we now have kind of square like this, and you can go ahead and sew through the next corner and the next 2 beads. So you're coming out from the next 2 beads, and we're just kind of finishing off that round a little bit better, okay? All right, so it now looks like this. So we're going to take our flat earring finding, and you're going to poke it through the hole in the middle, and make sure that your tail thread is on the back. So make sure you're poking through from the front to the back, okay? Like this. And then we will be ready to begin the next bit. This bit is the bit that's kind of hard to hold on to. So I'm hoping I can do this. Okay, you're going to pick up your chaton in the setting, and if I flip it over here, you'll notice there are 4 holes here, 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 okay? So the right way up, okay, I'm going to go through one of the holes in the direction that I'm going and into the next hole over. So I'm kind of going across the corner like this, okay? See how I'm doing that? But you want to pick it up in the direction that you're sewing, so I'm going counterclockwise, so I'm kind of going to go this way, okay? You're going to pull this down, and you're coming out from your 2 beads right before an 8-0, okay? You're going to sew into the 2 beads right after that 8-0, and you're going to pull that, okay? So this is now kind of attached partially on one corner, okay? Then you're going to go into the same hole that your thread is coming out of, plus the next hole over on the bottom, okay? So I'm cutting across that corner, okay? So you're going to do that. Go ahead and pull that. And then you're going to sew into the 2 11-0s on that side. So we're skipping the 8-0 at the corner, and we're going into the next 2 11-0s, okay? So now it's kind of a little bit better held on. Then again, I'm going to go into, kind of go back into the one that I just came out from, through the next side hole, okay? And then you're going to sew through the 2 beads on that side. And then one more time, you're going to sew diagonally through the corner and through the 2 beads where we started. Okay, all right, so our chaton is now holding our stud in place on top of our beadwork like this. Okay, so this is now sewn down. It's not going to come off. All right. Hope that all made sense for you. Okay, once you're here, you're going to step up into the 8-0 at the corner. So sew through the 8-0. And we're going to add 1 4mm pearl. So just pick up a pearl, and you're going to go straight into the next 8-0. And you're going to do that all the way around, and you will see a little bit of thread. Again, don't worry about that, okay? Okay, so just pick up your next pearl, go through the next 8-0. You're going to repeat that 2 more times. So it now looks like this, and this is really pretty as well. I really like this, but like I said, there is kind of a bit of thread showing. If you don't mind the bit of thread showing, you could just reinforce this, or if you used like a silver thread or something, you could just reinforce it and be done, and you know, use that. I mean, I like the look of that. Okay, once you are exiting from your 8/0, you're going to sew forward through the first purl that we added. You're going to pick up one 11/0, and we're going to sew through the prong above the 8/0, so the bottom of the prong right next to the base of the stone. You're going to sew through there, and when you pull that, your bead is going to sit right up kind of next to the prong. And again, we will see a little bit of thread here. We're going to cover that up in a minute, okay? All right, go ahead, pick up another 11 and sew through the next purl. Okay, so we have two 11s sitting right above our 8/0 like this. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on each side. So pick up an 11, sew through the prong, another 11, and through the purl. Okay, so I'll do the other two sides really quickly. Okay, so it now looks like this, and again, I really like the look of this, so you could stop here if you wanted to. Notice that I did kind of take a second to try to seat my 11/0s next to each other and as close in as possible to the chaton. Just take a second to make sure they're sitting straight, okay? All right, so here we are exiting from our purl, and this is where we're going to address the fact that we can see a little bit of thread here. So this is where you can either pick up a 15/0 or an 11/0, okay? So I'm going to pick up an 11/0 for the video. You could pick up, sorry, a 15/0 for the video. You could pick up an 11. All right, and then you're going to sew through both of these beads next to the prong, but you're not sewing through the prong, you're just going through these two beads, okay? And pull, and I'm going to pick up another 15, and I'm going into the next purl. And you don't want to pull too tight here, you're just kind of trying to like cover up the thread really. If you pull too tight, it starts to pull here, and then you can see the thread there. So, you know, there's a balance to be found here. Okay, so then you're going to pick up another 15. This is less of a problem if you're picking up an 11, but if you're picking up a 15, just be careful not to pull too tight, okay? You're going to go through those two beads up by the prong, okay? And then another 15 and through the next purl. Repeat 2 more times. Okay, so once you have done that, we have one more step, which just helps to kind of reinforce everything. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew through the 15/0 that we just added a second ago on that round, okay, through the 8/0 down below, trying to not get thread stuck on the wrong side of that bead. There we go. Okay, and through the 15/0 here, okay? And again, you don't need to pull this super tight. We just want to kind of connect all of this together a little bit better. And then you're going to sew forward through the purl. Okay, and so again, you're going through the first 15-0 or 11-0 through the 8-0 and through the next 15-0 and then through the pearl. Okay, two more sides to do, so I'll do that really quickly. And just a quick note, when you're going through the 15-0, if you're not sure which way you're going, you're coming out from the pearl, going through it, and then you're going into it before the pearl. So think of it in those terms, and that way you'll be able to make sure that you do go in the right way, okay? Okay, there's always one side that goes wonky and I don't know why. There we go. Okay. All right, so that is all done now. So we've attached our 15s and our 8s, we've attached our 15s and our 11s. So we are all basically done. So I'll show you how I tie off my thread. So what I do is I weave forward through the beads. So I'm going to go through the 15 and the 8. I was exiting from the pearl. And then through the 2 beads below the pearl, through the next bead, and then step into the middle bead. Okay, so you're going to go through the single bead that's kind of above or below the 8-0 and then into one of the beads on the original 4 on the square here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you can just sew around the square until you get to your tail. Okay, so my tail is coming out from that bead. I'm coming out from that one. I'm just going to tie these 2 threads together in a knot. Okay, and then I'm just going to weave the one that I already have threaded. I'm just going to go through the next bead, maybe this outer next bead, just kind of follow the beads. Okay, and then these 2 beads here. And then I can cut that off. And I will do the same for the other end. I will thread my needle, I'll sew the other way, and then I'll cut that off. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I just got rid of that thread, and here are my little earrings, and I think these are so cute, and you know, they are nice and small. You can use them as a top, like I said, or just on their own as a little stud. So I hope you try these. They are really fun and quick, and I mean, like I said, you can get a different look by doing it this way. If you wanted, instead of a 8-0 right here, you could do a 3mm crystal, and that would really like give a little bit of extra bling on the sides if you're doing the 11-0s, because it would maybe stick out a little bit further, you know, so, or catch the eye a little bit more, I guess. But I mean, it's up to you. You can play around with this. Okay guys, I will see you very soon for another video. Make sure you go and check out the Potomac Beads treasure box if you're not familiar with what that is. I will put a link for that down below. Bye!